and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for coming. This right here, right now, is the future of Hollywood. I also want to welcome the world to the show today. We're going to be talking a lot about acting. We're going to be talking a lot about humanity, but most of all, we're going to be talking about diversity in Hollywood. Now, before we get started, I want you guys to look around. Look at all the faces, all the different colors, different genders, different ages, different backgrounds, languages, cultures. It's really a beautiful thing. This, what you're looking at, is diversity. And this, right here, is the future of Hollywood. It is my honor to introduce our special guest tonight. This man is an amazing actor, writer, director, and all-around artist. And my good friend, Mr. Brionne Davis. Right there, my friend. All right.
Hey, everybody. Wow.
They clap for you more than they clap for me.
Well,
just so you know.
I didn't ask them to.
Well,
I didn't tell them to.
Touche. All right. So, just so everyone knows, I've known Brionne since, 2004. And we've grown together. But I had the privilege, I guess, of watching Brionne go from acting class, just like we do every single day, to off-Broadway in New York City, to TV, to the big screen. And in 2015, Brionne was a huge part of a project called Embrace of the Serpent, which was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film in this year's Oscars. And yeah, it's amazing. It's quite a journey. It is quite a journey, but the first thing I want to ask you is, how did you get involved with that project?
It's stars aligned. I had shot a film about 2 years prior. I'll give the long version. Why not? And I'd fought for this role, and I really wanted this role. I got the script, and I read this monologue, and I knew that it was a script that was written really well. It was a film called Savaged, and it was right up my alley. And I reached out to the director, and I got my agent on it. I got all these people to fight for this role. And I was auditioning for the lead, but I didn't hear from them for 2 weeks. They had already shot some of the footage, and then they didn't call me. No, nothing. And I had done really well, I thought. And but they brought the main actor back, which he was phenomenal, to play the lead. Then 2 weeks later, somebody else had dropped out, and they called me and said, "We really want to work with you. We want you to play this supporting role in the film. Would you be interested?" And I reread it. I said, "Hell yes." That producer on that project 2 years later calls me and says, "There's a producer in Colombia that wants to meet you and wants to talk to you about potentially playing this role in this film in the Amazon." Go to the Amazon. That's all I needed to hear. Yeah, I'll go.
And that actually attracted you, going to the Amazon.
And I didn't need to hear anything else.
Wow.
But then I read the script, and then I saw the director, Seal Guetta. I saw a couple of his films, and I knew I would be in good hands. And so this guy, Jason Gravitz, who's that producer, introduced us. I Skyped with Ciro. I didn't really audition for the role, but I because of becoming recommended.
And it's we talk about this all the time, being proactive in your career and being strong and tough and really lobbying for roles. I mean, sometimes we got to do that.
You have
and
to.
Because of that, you knocked over the first domino, and they just kept on falling in the right direction. And who knows, even if it's like a little short film that somebody sees you in, or even just one scene in a feature film that somebody sees you, and that leads to something else. And that's exactly what happened to you.
Yeah.
So here we go. Now we are one of the leads in a film that's going to be shot in the Amazon. I want to talk real quick about pre-production, because living in the skin of the character, did you do any of that before you got to the Amazon, or did you just let it go? Did you walk around, not just in class, but in your own life?
I tried when I was here, but I knew I had 2 weeks
Yeah.
prior to shooting when I was in the Amazon.
Okay, so you were going to get to the Amazon, and you had 2 weeks in the Amazon. Good. So you had time to get into the skin in the Amazon.
Well, because the other thing is, I speak 4 languages in the film, and one of them is Witoto.
There's another thing we talk about in class all the time. Does that mean you have to become fluent in Witoto or anything for that matter? Or, well, how did you approach that? The languages.
This was a little different than my normal process, because I don't normally need to memorize lines, because if I do the subtext, if I do the work, if I do all of that stuff, this lines just kind of, they come organically through. But with Witoto, which is a language that just doesn't make any sense, then to me, it does to them, then it was memorization. It was getting it in my mouth, writing. I've got pictures of us, or of me. My bed is just, I mean, thousands of words, thousands and thousands and thousands, just over and over and over again. And then in my room, just with my mouth, just putting them all in my mouth. My first line that I ever memorized is the only one that I can remember.
And it is... See.
Which means, this is the song of my people. This is reminds me of home. It makes me feel safe, which I thought was a really fantastic line to remember. And I was working with a non-actor who was phenomenal, by the way.
That's what I wanted to talk. So an indigenous, somebody that was born and raised in the Amazon that spoke that language. He was your co-star, so to speak?
My co-star, traveling companion. Working with him was interesting, and one, because it was so beautiful to watch him work, because the way that they tell stories is, the way that their history is sent down from generation to generation is they tell stories. So it's around the fires, around these smoking pits, and so their imaginations. So you're having a conversation, and you get to explore what that feels like to you. You get to create your own imagination. You get to have your own. So their imaginations are incredible.
Right.
So there would be times, and knowing that he was a non-actor, there would be times I would be having dialogue. I hate you, blah, 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 you know, whatever that is, and he would tear up, or I would look into his eyes, and I would see this belief that he was. And this was early on, and I thought, this guy thinks that I'm actually telling him these things. Wow. Which I want that from another actor, and that's cool when that happens, you know? You can affect somebody like that, but I wanted to make sure that he knew that I wasn't really talking to him that way.
Well, you know, that's a very interesting place for you to be in. So do you really want him to know, or did you just let it go and just let him think whatever he thinks?
I wanted to still be his friend afterwards.
Why?
Well, because...
So do you still talk to him? Is that
yes? Yeah. No, it was just at first, you know, working with him, you know.
I understand, but it's like, well, I mean, talk about a gift for another actor to give to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not only just you giving it to him, he was giving you something very special.
Incredible.
Too. Oh, man.
But there were difficulties too, because, you know, he would just start, and they called him Brando because he would just start making stuff up, and he would just start doing whatever he wanted to do.
Wow.
And I would listen for beats. I would watch him and observe him, and so that I know what he's saying to me through behavior. I'm watching him, I'm listening to him in terms of how he's saying things, so I understand where he is in the conversation. But he would start going off and telling these stories, and I never knew where he would change it, so I would have to go and insert something new so that my response to him would be appropriate. Wow. Anyway.
Well, I mean, see, that to me sounds like a gift as well. It must have been a little bit frustrating and stressful for you, but it did keep you in the moment.
Made me listen.
Exactly, and we talk about this all the time. Listening is the best tool any actor could have, as well as inner monologue. So I'm sure there was a lot of moments, I mean, and I saw the final product, there was a lot of moments where you're not really saying anything. And he is a man of few words as well. But the camera captured all of that. So we're talking about listening and inner monologue, things we talk about every single day. And things that you've been doing for your entire career. And you see how important those techniques are and how much they serve you when you're in this kind of situation. And that's why we do the techniques. So now we're in the Amazon. And the director, who I know that you have a very good relationship with, did he just, I mean, the Amazon is going to be a character in the story in itself. The rivers, you paddling a canoe, the trees and everything like that. How much freedom did the director give you to just be in the moment, to just search and look around? Because everything, you're talking about rubber, trees and plants like that, that's a huge part of the story. Did he just give you creative freedom to do your thing?
Well, we were shooting on 35 millimeter.
Oh,
Some
wow.
of the last 35 millimeter tape in the
Wow.
world.
Good.
And
So he
this
couldn't
is
just
one
let
of the
you
last films.
go. And...
So all of my tapes, every single one of them were one. I think I might have gotten one time to do a second take,
Wow.
but all my takes were one take. So
Amazing.
there was a lot of discussion. One of the things that I learned about Richard was that he had this, his obsession with plants. He would see a plant from...
And which is the character that you're playing?
Yes, Evan.
Okay, good.
Evan.
All right.
Hundreds of yards away, and he would be in a plane, and he would remember that plant, and he would come back to it later on. And there's nothing in the script that really gave that part of his obsession justice.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that there was something captured on film with, and at the beginning of the film, I'm walking through, and I stop and I look at a plant. But my mission is I've got to go follow him. I've got to get to where he's going. But I stop and I look at this plant. And luckily they kept that footage, and I think the director really appreciated it, because in that moment I make a note. I've got to come back to this plant.
Right.
So that, and it just gave it a sense of layered and texture. And I really wanted that for the character. I really wanted that to be shown in the film.
And that wasn't in the script.
And that wasn't in the script.
But it's in your story. And that's another thing we talk about in class all the time. Just because it's not in the script doesn't mean that it's not in your story. And a lot of times, even the writers, the directors and even the writers sometimes miss those little nuances. But I believe that it's our job as actors and artists to create that.
Yes.
Because you could see how important that is. And then there's another moment where you want to talk about a happy accident that happens on the set. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But when you're dealing with the wild, it's very unpredictable. So it's not just you're dealing with another unpredictable actor, you're also dealing with the Amazon, that is the most unpredictable character in the world. So tell us that story, that your favorite moment. I think it's one of your favorite moments.
Definitely one of my favorite moments.
Well,
there
tell
was
us
a
about-
lot of crazy stuff
But this one in particular was
This
like
this
sent
one-
from up above.
Yeah, when I first got there, they drove me into. I landed in Mattu, and then they drove me 2 hours further into the Amazon. We stayed at this electric power plant built by the Russians that's never worked, and then. So we stayed there for a week and a half, and it felt like a concentration camp. We were guarded. We had the military in the jungle, and which were awesome guys, by the way. They just had their machine
You mean
guns.
in real? The actors were guarded, like in real life?
These were military guys guarding
Guarding the
yeah.
production.
Yeah.
No, so that wasn't part of the story either. That
No,
was
no.
was
That's-
actually happening.
They were actually there. Yeah, and hey man, how's it going? With these guns.
Wow.
It made me feel very safe. But I couldn't leave, so I felt like I was really restricted. But I'm walking with we had Andres Berrientos was the acting coach and became a very, very good friend of mine on set, and to this day. We were walking, and he says, and this moth, and the moths are this big, and they're beautiful, and it flew around and landed on my shoulder, and then it flew around and then landed on my foot. So I'm walking with Andres, and he says, when a moth or a butterfly land on you, it means you're going to go through a change. You're going to go through a metamorphosis in your life. And when that happened, there was even a larger part of me that just let go.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I was going to be safe, and I knew that this was going to be, if I didn't try to hold anything or make anything precious or restrict anything, that this was going to be an incredible experience for me. So that's the first week that I'm there. Me, like my character, is going through, he was going through a change. He was going through a deeper understanding. And the very last week of shooting, it's very special for me to be able to tell you guys this and have this experience. I've told this story a million times, but it's very special right now. We're doing B-cam stuff, and we're very last days of shooting, and I'm the parts where I'm going back through the jungle, and we're breaking up camp, or we're breaking up. Cyril clears the set, and there's this grouping of butterflies that are down on next to the shore, and there looks like there's about 50 of them. And then Cyril says, "Brionne, get there and walk there. When you get to the butterflies, stop." And I knew it was about to happen. So I did, and I got to there, and the river's here, and the jungle, and the mountains, and I walked, and as soon as I got to the butterflies, they swarmed up around me, and they just flew up around me, and so I could feel thousands, what felt like thousands of butterflies like this around me, and it's just all around me, and Brionne completely was looking at the water, the mountains, the jungle, and sharing that experience with Richard, and then Cyril says, "Walk out of frame," and there was no way I wanted that moment to be over in my life. So I hung out there for a little longer.
And it's in the final product as well.
It's in the final product. Yeah.
Another thing that wasn't in the script.
Yeah.
I mean, those are moments that, I mean, you could probably count on one hand how many moments like that you'll have in an entire career. And there it was. So we cut to, you come back, the film starts to get some kind of exposure, starts really small in the beginning, film festivals, things like that. So then people started watching it, and you started getting more and more exposure all the way up to Cannes film festivals and Sundance. And
yeah, it premiered at Cannes, right. And seeing it there, I started hitting the people next to me because I couldn't believe that. I just wanted to make sure that was me in the movie, that I got to be a part of this film, because this film represents everything I believe in life. It's my personal philosophy. It's what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to travel the world and work with Indigenous, and I got to do that. And the beautiful philosophy that's inside this film is, it's crazy. It's crazy how serendipitous all of it is.
Yeah.
But seeing it can. Was phenomenal. I knew it was something special there, but I was concerned that, black and white, 9 languages, subtitled, that the States weren't, people were asking me, how do you think the States is going to respond to this?
And it was received very well. And could you imagine, I know you're a big dreamer, but in your wildest dreams, that it was going to take on a life of its own, so much so that it would get an Oscar nomination? Could you even have dreamt that? Back to when you lobbied for the character in the project in the first place, now all of a sudden you get an Oscar nomination and you're going to go to the Oscars. I
had no idea. Of course, I didn't have any idea that, because they had no money for publicity.
Yeah.
And the film did it on its own merit. It was an alternate for a long time until it started screening for the Academy, and then people just started talking about it, and then bam, it just
one thing went to another.
Yeah, I had no idea. No, but 7 years ago, I put on my vision board that I wanted to be at the Oscars in 2015.
Did you say that? Very nice.
I've got
very
the journal
nicely
entry.
done.
I've got the.
To prove it.
And I think it says I won an Oscar. I want an Oscar. So you dream big, and then if you get to meet Lady Gaga, then it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to talk about Brionne's experience at this year's Oscars, meeting Lady Gaga, and just being there. Just like, this is a business where excellence is not always rewarded. So when you do get some kind of notoriety like this and some kind of exposure, it's worth its weight in gold. I can't wait to talk about that experience, all right? But that will be the next episode, and that's all we have for this episode. But don't worry, because it's not the end. It's just the beginning, because the future of Hollywood knows that the best is yet to come. All right. Very well.